Have you ever looked at your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? You didn't buy anything big. No luxury trips, no expensive watches, no huge investments. And yet, somehow your money slowly disappeared. A few dollars here, a small purchase there, something you thought didn't matter. But over time, those small things quietly added up. And one day you realize you're working hard, but not moving forward. I used to live exactly like that. Every month, I told myself the same story. I'll save more next month. I deserve this small treat. It's just a little money. But those little things were not little at all. They were habits. And habits shape your life. It took me years to understand something very simple. Becoming richer is not only about earning more money. Sometimes it's about stopping what is quietly making you poorer. Not in a dramatic way, not in one big mistake, but in small, invisible ways, every single day. So today, I want to tell you a story, not about how I made a lot of money, but about what I stopped buying, and how those small changes slowly changed my life. This is not a story about sacrifice, it's a story about awareness. Let me take you back a few years ago. I remember one very normal evening. I was sitting in my room after work, tired, a little bored, a little stressed. I opened my phone and started scrolling. Videos, social media, ads. And then I saw something, a pair of shoes. They looked clean, stylish, comfortable. And for a moment, I felt something, a small excitement. I thought, these will look good on me. I work hard. I deserve this. It's not even that expensive. So I clicked, added to cart, and bought them. Just like that. A few days later, the shoes arrived. I wore them once, maybe twice, and then they stayed in the corner of my room, forgotten. At that time, I didn't think much about it. It was just one purchase, just one small thing. But here's what I didn't see back then. It was not about the shoes. It was about a pattern of buying things to feel better, a pattern of reacting instead of thinking, a pattern of spending without awareness, and the shoes were not alone. There were many things like that. Clothes I didn't really need, gadgets I rarely used, subscriptions I forgot to cancel. Each one felt small, each one felt harmless. But together, they were quietly taking money away from my future. I didn't become poor because of one big mistake. I became stuck because of many small, repeated choices. And one day, something changed. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No crisis, no big loss, just a quiet realization. I looked around my room and I saw things, so many things, but very few of them actually made my life better. At the same time, I looked at my bank account and I felt something uncomfortable. I had been working for years, but I didn't feel secure. I didn't feel free. And that question came back again. Where did my money go? This time, I didn't ignore it. I sat down and I started to look closely, not at the big expenses, but at the small ones. Coffee here, online shopping there, random upgrades, convenient spending. At first, it was surprising. Then, it was a little painful because I realized something honest. I was not poor because I didn't earn enough. I was poor because I didn't pay attention. That realization didn't feel good, but it was powerful because for the first time, I saw that I had control. I didn't need to change everything. I just needed to change a few small habits, not by forcing myself, not by feeling guilty, but by becoming more aware. So I made a quiet decision. I didn't say, I will stop spending money. Instead, I said, I will stop buying things that don't truly add value to my life. That sentence changed everything. Because now it wasn't about restriction, it was about clarity. And slowly, very slowly, I started to notice things. I noticed how often I bought things when I felt bored. I noticed how often I spent money to feel better. I noticed how easy it was to click buy now and how hard it was to earn that same money. That awareness was uncomfortable at first, but it was also freeing because once you see the pattern, you can change it. And that's when I started removing things. Not everything at once, just one by one, quietly, gently, without pressure, without stress. And something interesting happened. My life didn't feel worse. It actually felt lighter, cleaner, more intentional. I wasn't surrounded by random things anymore. I was surrounded by things I actually used, things I actually valued. And at the same time, something else started to change: my money. I didn't suddenly become rich, but for the first time, I started to see progress, a little more saved each month, a little less stress, a little more control. And that feeling was worth more than anything I had bought before because it wasn't temporary, it stayed. Now, if you ask me, what made the biggest difference? It wasn't a big investment, it wasn't a higher salary, it was something much simpler. It was the things I stopped buying, the quiet decisions, the invisible changes, the habits that no one sees but shape everything. In this story, I will share with you those things, not to tell you what to do, but to help you see what you might not be noticing yet. Because sometimes the biggest change in your life doesn't come from what you start doing, it comes from what you quietly stop. And maybe, just maybe, one small change can slowly change everything. Let's begin with the first thing I stopped buying. The first thing I stopped buying was something very small. So small that most people don't even think about it. It wasn't expensive. It didn't look like a problem. In fact, it felt normal. Very normal. I'm talking about daily convenience drinks, coffee, milk tea, soft drinks, anything I bought, just because it was easy. At first, I didn't believe this could make a difference. I thought, it's just a few dollars. It helps me feel better. It's part of my routine. And I was right. In a way, it did feel good. Every morning, I would stop by a small shop, the smell of coffee, the familiar sound of ice in a plastic cup, the short moment of comfort before work. It became a habit, not something I chose, something I just did. Even on days when I didn't really want it, even on days when I already had coffee at home, I still bought it because it was easy, because it was there, because I didn't think about it. That was the real problem, not the drink, but the lack of awareness. One day, I decided to do something simple. I didn't stop buying coffee. Not yet. I just started tracking it every time I bought a drink. I wrote it down. Day 1, coffee. Day 2, milk tea. Day 3, coffee again. At first, it felt unnecessary, but after 1 week, something surprising happened. I looked at the numbers, and I paused, because what felt small did not look small anymore. 7 days, 7 drinks, and the total was more than I expected, not shocking, but uncomfortable. And then I asked myself a simple question. Do I really need this every day? The answer was honest. No, I didn't. I just wanted it. And sometimes I didn't even want it. I just followed the habit. That's when I made a small change, not a big one. I didn't say, I will never buy coffee again. That would not work. Instead, I said, I will only buy it when I truly enjoy it. That one sentence changed everything. The next day, I walked past the same shop, same smell, same menu, same pravichka. But this time, I paused and I asked myself, do I really want this right now? Not because I'm used to it, not because I feel bored, but because I truly want it. The answer surprised me, no. So I kept walking. It felt strange at first, a little uncomfortable, like something was missing, but also a little powerful. Because for the first time, I made a choice. Not a reaction, a choice. The next day, I did the same. And the day after that, sometimes I still bought coffee, but not every day, only when I really wanted it. Slowly, something started to change. The habit became weaker, the awareness became stronger, and the money started to stay, not in a dramatic way, just a little more each week, a little more each month. But that wasn't the most important part. The most important part was this. I realized how easy it is to spend money without thinking, and how powerful it is to pause for just a few seconds. That pause changed my behavior. And once I saw that, I started to see it everywhere. Not just with drinks, but with many small things, snacks, online orders, random upgrades. All of them had something in common. And they were easy, too easy. And because they were easy, they didn't feel important. But over time, they were shaping my life, quietly, without me noticing. Stopping daily drinks didn't make me rich overnight, but it gave me something more valuable: control. And once you feel that control, you don't want to lose it. Now, I still enjoy coffee. I still sit in a cafe sometimes, but it feels different. It feels intentional. It feels like a choice, not a habit. And strangely, I enjoy it more now because it's not automatic anymore, it's meaningful. That was the first thing I stopped buying every day. Something small, something simple. But it opened my eyes. It showed me that change doesn't have to be big. It just has to be honest. And once you make one honest change, the next one becomes easier. Because now, you are paying attention. And when you pay attention, your life begins to change, slowly, quietly, but deeply. The next thing I stopped buying was even more surprising. The second thing I stopped buying was something I didn't even realize I was paying for. It didn't come in a package, it didn't sit in my room, I couldn't touch it. And yet, every month, it quietly took money from me. I'm talking about subscriptions I didn't use. At first, this sounds simple, almost too simple. You might think, of course I don't pay for things I don't use. That's what I thought too. Until one evening, I decided to check. Not because I planned to, just because I felt curious. I opened my bank app, and instead of looking at my balance, I looked at my transactions. Not the big ones, the small ones, and the repeating ones. And that's when I saw it. A payment, small, almost invisible. It happened every month. I paused. What is this? I tried to remember. And then it came back. A music app. I signed up months ago, maybe even a year ago. At that time, it felt exciting. Unlimited songs, no ads, better sound. I told myself, this is worth it. And for a while, it was. But then life changed. I got busy, I stopped using it, but I never stopped paying. And that was just the beginning. I kept scrolling. Another payment, a video streaming service. I remembered signing up for a free trial, just to try, just for 1 month. But I forgot to cancel. So it continued, month after month, quietly, automatically, without asking me. Then I saw another one, cloud storage, another one, an app I downloaded once and never opened again. At that moment, I didn't feel shocked. I felt something else. I felt careless because none of these were big expenses. Each one was small, But together, they were not small at all. They were like tiny leaks, not enough to notice in one day, but enough to slowly empty the bucket. And the most dangerous part, I wasn't aware. I wasn't choosing to spend that money. It was just happening, automatically. That's when I asked myself a question. How many things am I paying for and without thinking? I didn't know the answer, but I knew I needed to find out. So I did something simple. I wrote them all down. Every subscription, every monthly payment, every automatic charge. At first, the list was short, then it got longer and longer and longer. When I finished, I looked at the total and I stayed silent for a moment. Because again, it wasn't shocking, but it was uncomfortable. Because I realized something honest. I was not paying for value. I was paying for convenience. I was paying for habits. I was paying for things I forgot. And that's when I made a decision, not a big one. A simple one. If I don't use it, I don't keep it. That was it. No complicated rules, no strict system, just honesty. The next day, I started canceling, one by one. Music app, cancel. Streaming service, cancel. Unused apps, cancel. Some of them asked, "Are you sure you want to leave?" And for a second, I hesitated. What if I need it later? What if I miss it? But then I asked myself something more real. When was the last time I actually used this? Most of the time, I couldn't even remember. So I clicked cancel again and again and again. After a while, something interesting happened. I felt lighter, not just financially, mentally, because every subscription is not just money. It's also attention. It's also noise. It's also a small piece of your life. And I had too many of those pieces, going nowhere. When I removed them, my life felt simpler, cleaner, more focused. And of course, my money changed too. Not in one big moment, but slowly, quietly, every month. There was a little more left. And for the first time, I noticed it. Because it wasn't disappearing anymore, it was staying. That's when I understood something powerful. It's not always about what you actively buy. Sometimes it's about what you forgot you're still paying for. And those things can quietly control your finances without you even realizing it. Now, I still use subscriptions, but very differently. I don't collect them anymore. I choose them carefully, one or two at a time. And if I stop using them, I let them go. No guilt, no hesitation, because I learned something simple. If it doesn't add value, it takes value, and I don't want that anymore. That was the second thing I stopped buying. Something invisible, something easy to ignore. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And once I removed it, everything felt a little more in control, a little more intentional, a little more free. The next thing I stopped buying was something even more common, something almost everyone around me was doing. And for a long time, I thought it was completely normal. The third thing I stopped buying was something even harder to notice because it didn't feel like a bad decision. It felt like a reward, a way to relax, a way to feel better after a long day. I'm talking about buying things just because I felt something, not because I needed them, not because they added value, but because of a feeling: stress, boredom, loneliness, even happiness. For a long time, I didn't see this clearly. I thought I was just shopping, normal shopping, something everyone does after work, on weekends, late at night, especially late at night. I remember many evenings like this. I came home tired, not physically, but mentally. Too many things in my head, too many thoughts, too much noise. I didn't want to think anymore, so I did something simple. I opened my phone and I started scrolling. Online stores, clothes, gadgets, random items, things I didn't search for, but somehow found me. And the more I looked, the more I wanted. Not because I needed them, but because, for a moment, they made me feel better. It's a strange feeling. You see something new, something clean, something perfect, and your mind tells you this will improve your life. This will make things easier. This will make you feel good. And for a moment, you believe it. So you click, add to cart, buy. And right after that, there is a small moment of satisfaction, a quiet excitement. You feel lighter, happier, but only for a short time. Very short. Because after a few hours, or maybe the next day, that feeling disappears. And what's left? Just another item, another thing in your room, another number in your bank account going down for a long time. I didn't connect these moments. I didn't see the pattern. I just thought, I like buying things. But one day, I noticed something. It was late at night. I was doing the same thing, scrolling, looking, almost buying something again. And suddenly, I paused. Not because I planned to, but because I felt tired, not from work, but from this cycle. Buy, feel good, forget, repeat. So instead of clicking buy, I asked myself a simple question. What am I really feeling right now? Not what I want to buy, but what I feel. And the answer surprised me. I wasn't excited. I wasn't inspired. I was tired and a little lonely and a little stressed. And in that moment, everything became clear. I wasn't buying things. I was trying to change how I felt, and shopping was just the easiest way to do it. That realization didn't feel good, but it felt honest. And honesty is where change begins. So I didn't make a big rule. I didn't say, I will never shop again. Instead, I created a small pause, a simple habit. Every time I wanted to buy something, I waited just for a moment and I asked myself, do I need this? And more importantly, or am I just feeling something? At first, this was very difficult because the feeling was strong, the desire was quick, and the habit was deep. Sometimes I still bought things without thinking, but slowly. That pause became stronger. That awareness became clearer, and something interesting happened. Many times, after a few minutes, the desire disappeared, just like that, gone, because it was never about the item. It was about the feeling. And feelings, they pass if you give them time. That was something I had never learned before. I always reacted immediately. I always tried to fix the feeling quickly, with food, with entertainment, with shopping. But now, I was learning to sit with it, just for a moment. And that moment saved me from many unnecessary purchases. Not all, but many. And over time, that made a difference, not just in my money, but in my life, because I started to understand myself better. I started to see my patterns, my triggers, my habits. And once you see those things, you have a choice. You don't have to react the same way anymore. Now, when I feel stressed, I don't open a shopping app. Sometimes I just sit quietly. Sometimes I go for a short walk. Sometimes I do nothing. And surprisingly, that is enough. The feeling passes without costing me anything. That was the third thing I stopped buying. Not a product, not a service, but a habit, a reaction, a way of escaping my feelings. And once I stopped doing that, something changed. My money stayed. But more importantly, my mind became calmer because I was no longer chasing quick fixes. I was becoming more aware, more intentional, more in control. The next thing I stopped buying was something even more common, something people around me did every day, something that looked completely normal, but quietly kept me spending more than I realized. The fourth thing I stopped buying was something I never thought was a problem because it didn't come from inside me. It came from the outside, from people, from the world around me. I'm talking about buying things to keep up with others. At first, I didn't see it clearly because no one ever says, I'm buying this to impress people. We say things like, I need a better phone. This looks more professional. Everyone has one. It sounds reasonable, it sounds normal, and that's why it's dangerous, because it hides itself, quietly, inside everyday decisions. I remember one moment very clearly. A friend of mine bought a new phone. It looked beautiful, clean, fast, modern. Everyone around him noticed. And they talked about it. They admired it, and I felt something. A small voice in my mind. Maybe I should upgrade too. At that time, my phone was still working fine. No problems, no real need to change. But suddenly, it didn't feel enough anymore. Not because it changed, but because my perspective changed. And that's how it starts. Not with need, but with comparison. You see someone else, and without realizing it, you measure yourself, your clothes, your phone, your lifestyle, and slowly, what you have feels smaller, less exciting, less enough. So you try to fix that feeling by upgrading, by buying something new, something better, something closer to what others have. And again, it feels good. For a moment, you feel more confident, more included, more equal. But just like before, that feeling doesn't last because there will always be someone with something newer, something better, something more expensive. And if you follow that path, there is no end, just an endless cycle. Compare, buy, feel better, compare again. For a long time, I was part of that cycle, not in a big way, but in many small ways. Better shoes, nicer clothes, upgrades I didn't truly need. All of them felt justified, but deep down, they were driven by something else. Not value, not necessity, but comparison. And one day, I noticed it. Not because someone told me, but because I felt tired. Tired of always needing something new. Tired of never feeling fully satisfied. So I asked myself a simple question. If no one could see this, would I still buy it? That question changed everything. Because suddenly, the answer became very clear. Many times, it was no. I didn't want the item. I wanted the feeling of being accepted, the feeling of not being left behind. And once I saw that, I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I made a quiet decision, not to stop buying things, but to stop buying things for other people, even if they never asked, even if they never cared, because most of the time, they didn't. That was the truth I had to accept. People are busy with their own lives. They are not thinking about what phone I use, what shoes I wear, what brand I choose. That pressure was mostly in my mind. And once I understood that, something inside me relaxed. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. I didn't need to keep up. I didn't need to upgrade just because others did. I could choose based on my needs, my values, my life, and that felt free, very free. Now, when I see something new, something popular, something everyone is talking about, I pause and I ask myself, do I need this? Or do I just want to feel like I belong? And most of the time, I already belong without buying anything. That simple awareness, saved me from many unnecessary purchases, not once, but again and again, and slowly. My spending changed. My mindset changed. My life changed because I was no longer chasing other people's lives. I was building my own, at my own pace, in my own way. That was the fourth thing I stopped buying. Not a product, but a mindset, a silent pressure, a habit of comparison. And once I let it go, everything became lighter, simpler, more peaceful. The next thing I stopped buying was something even more hidden, something that looked like a good decision, but quietly kept me spending more over time.